All right, let's go ahead and do project 4. So for project 4, it's kind of a breakaway project in a way because so far we've been making all these various cups and bowls and whatnot. And the cups and the bowls, they are sort of an end within themselves. They are what they are, and that's very nice, very useful thing. But they are also a means to an end for bigger things. They're the starting points of many projects. So the lessons that we've learned of craftsmanship in the very first one, just our basic understanding of working with the clay. The lessons that we learned in the second one about attaching items and continuing working with the clay and perfecting our ability and our techniques. And the third one, making multiples that were the same, really gaining mastery. That's going to help us immeasurably in this next project. Okay, so what is the next project? The next project is just to combine those skills and make a little sculptural piece. In this case, we'll just start with a little piggy bank. And so, just like all the projects, we want to start with a drawing. The drawings are going to do a lot for us as far as helping us to clarify our ideas and see where we're going. Remember, in this class, a drawing is kind of attuned to the plan that you would use to build a house with or whatnot. So in this one, we see that, yes, it gives us the relative size of the various parts of our little pig here, gives us a little bit of an idea of what it's going to look like, gives us various parts and how they're going to work together. For instance, we see the feet and we see that they are hollow. We see this is where the hole will be, this is where the slot is, the angle of the head, the various things we might need to attach and whatnot. And here's just a different sort of an idea on it. With the bear, once again, we've got the main body, which would just be two bowls put together, another bowl on top. We've got these, which are more cups. And think about it for a second. The fact that we could make things that were more or less identical is really going to come into play. The fact that we learned how to attach things is really going to come into play. And even the ability to smooth things off and get a clean surface is going to come into play. So all that is kind of culminating into this project. Okay, so let's put these aside for a second. And with this tutorial, I'm not going to run you through everything the way that I have, and I'm not even going to give a breakdown of the multiple examples, not near to the extent that I have in the other ones, because at this point I assume that you already have a basic understanding of our techniques. Okay, well, so here's the little pig that we saw just a little bit ago, and you can see it does more or less match my drawing. Okay, and yeah, so the legs are actually hollow. They're not just stuck on. You could go in here and you could feel it. The head is hollow, and you could feel there's an opening between that so the air can pass through. I've got a slot here and a slot down here. And while I'm here, what we'll do to make the hole is you want to trace it out, and you want to make it about the same size. I have various still images that I'm going to show to give some of the techniques, and I'll talk more about those later. But yeah, we've got the stoppers. That should work just fine. Okay, and also, while I've got this in my hand and before I move on, we spent a lot of time learning about making a nice finish on the bowls and making them very professional looking. And so we want to keep going forward. We don't want to go backwards. And so you'll notice that, let's show you the bear for a second. Here's my bear example. Now this is very nice, but it's very rough. It's all constructed, but the finish isn't done. So I'd want to smooth this out. Now maybe with the bear, I'd want some of the texture to remain, but that has to be an artistic choice. That can't be a choice made out of just either fear or laziness. So with the little pig here, you can see that I've sanded him smooth, just like I've done with the bowls. And in fact, I think I'm going to take the pig one step further. So in working with the glazes with the class, I found that we do have a little bit of a problem with it having those pinprick holes in the glaze, in the surface of it. And that has to be due with air coming out of the little pores. So what I was thinking is that after you sand, right, then take a clean, dry brush, nice and soft, and it doesn't matter what brush it is. This is a nice brush, but heck, this old brush right here would work just as well. And brush it off. Remember, don't blow it off because we don't want to put all those particles into the air. Even the act of brushing is going to release some of those into the air, but not near so much. And we can control it a little bit. So good enough. I've just got most of the big chunks of dust off of here. And so then what I could do is I could take that same brush and a bit of water, and I could just get a little bit of water onto it. Now you could run it all the way underwater in the sink, but you know, I just don't want to have any chance of, you breaking something after you've worked so hard to get it together. But now that the excess of dust is off there, what I can do is I can just take and rub down the surface. It's all smooth. And then that's just taking the very, very surface. Very, very surface. I'm not using a whole bunch of water. And just by rubbing it, that is going to seal up those pores a little bit better, making it a little bit of a smoother surface. And hopefully the glaze will stick just that much better to it and not cause those little pinpricks that we've had a little bit of trouble with. Still the same. When you go to glazes, still the first coat should be, run it under water, wash it off. The first coat should be very wet, and then subsequent coats after that. Okay, so that's the surface treatment of my little piggy right here. Nice and sealing those pores up. All good. All good. Okay, so how did I put this guy together? Let me show you a little bit about that. Oh, wait, by the way, here's another idea as we move on and we're doing things that are more sculptural. Here's this little kitty cat right here. I made more textural, and I'll talk about that in my little still shots a little bit more that I'll show you guys here in just a few minutes and how I went about doing that. But yeah, that's another idea of just giving it that fur-like texture. Okay, enough of that. Oh, and by the way, holes at the bottom. There you go. Slots at the top. All good. Okay, Mr. Coon, get on with it. So what I've got here is I've made my 3 basic bowls. And I've formed them just like I have with cups and whatnot. I'm not going to run you through how I did that because you should know how to do that by now, and you should actually be pretty good with it, with all the ones that we've done. But suffice it to say that I had, just like when I was making my other identical pieces, I took 2 pieces of clay that were about the same size, and then I molded them out little by little so that, when I'd mold one, then I'd mold the other, and that way I've got 2 ones that fit together pretty well. For this one here, what I did when I was making it to make it that nice round shape is I just used that relationship that I've been building with the clay and just made sure that I worked it round when I worked it. That's all. And even when I worked it on the table, I worked it little by little by little by little to maintain that round shape for it right there. Okay, and just like all the other ones, I've done my best to make all the walls very consistent. It's good quality, good craftsmanship. There's no glaring cracks here. Everything's even and smooth and everything. Okay, good enough, good enough. Get on with it, Mr. Coon. All right, so now how do we go about attaching these guys? Well, just like anything else, we'll take and... Oh, and by the way, after I made this, let's say you do this in one class period, and that would be a good goal. You could make all 3 of these bowl shapes in one class period easily. Then I put them aside, maybe wrapping them loosely in a bag, maybe more tightly in a bag, maybe leaving them out altogether. Probably not leaving them out altogether, but by this time you should have a sense of that as well. Anyways, so they are a little bit firmer. They're not as totally soft as if they were formed right out of the bag. And that's important because it's difficult to work with something when it's right out of that bag, that soft part. I realize that. Okay, so anyways, so these have had just a little bit of chance to stiffen up, but you can see they're still pretty loose. Okay. All right, just as if you'd let them sit in a loose bag overnight, for instance. Okay, so you can see I'm scoring these up, and I'm just going to score the heck out of them, right? You want to get that surface nice and rough. That's it right there. Oh, here, I got my friend the fly with me today. That's my friend the fly. You wanted to see what's going on, too. Old Bob Ross. Old Bob Ross, he gets like squirrels and birds and whatever else. I get flies. Maybe when I get a little bit older and a little bit better, I'll get cuter animals. Okay, so you can see that's very rough, both those surfaces there. So then what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mate these two. Now remember, these are a little bit moist still. You know, they're not super dry. That's really important, because if they were drier, you'd need to add some water, some wet clay, that kind of thing in here. But these are pretty moist. I think I will even. Here, I'll take my brush, put it right here, add just a little bit of water to that edge there, and putting them together like this, what I can do is, once again, a little bit of a wiggle and a push and a wiggle and a push. See, because by doing that wiggle, I don't have to push near so hard. Okay, and I've made those, you know, good craftsmanship in just making those so that those two ends fit together nicely to begin with. Okay, and giving it that little wiggle, you see, that's just working those ends together, you know, like this, right? Okay, so, but we're going to take it one step further, right? What I would do now is I would just really go and cut across that seam, and go deep, right? This is not about making it pretty. In fact, it's really about making it ugly, because you'll see that as ugly as that's getting, it will take no time at all to smooth that off. And once again, you're gelling that clay so that it becomes just one solid piece. So I've got that there, and I've made it plenty ugly. And so I'll just take my butter knife or a wooden tool, doesn't matter either way. And I'm just going to go, and you see how quickly and easily that's smoothed together? Just like so. And that's really just stitching them together. Okay. Okay, and you can see I really haven't lost any material from doing that. Okay, so that's how I'm going to attach these. And of course I would do it all the way around. Okay, so now you can see that I've done this all the way around. And so this has really become one solid piece. One solid piece, but it's nice and hollow. Okay, so let's say I'm going to add this second piece to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, okay, well, where am I going to put it? Is it going to be the type of thing that goes like this? That could be, right? Or is it the type of thing that's going to be going like this? Well, that could be. So let's say we were going to put it this way, right here. What I would do is I've got that right there, and I would just make a guide showing me, okay, this is where I'm going to attach it. All right, all good. And then, you see, then I would go ahead and I would cut out a bit of a hole right there, so that way the air can pass from one thing to another. All right, and so here we go. All right, and I've got this, I'm just going to pull it out. There it is. Clean it up a little bit. And then make this area here. Ooh, that's nice, I can get in there now. Sculpt that around a little bit. Yeah, kind of nice. Any part that was pushed in, maybe I can get in there and push it out again if I needed to. Anyhow, but I think it's doing all right. And so once again, I'm going to score the heck out of this right here. Just mess it up. Mess it up real good. Okay. Meanwhile, do the same thing with this guy right over here. Just scoring it real good, real good. Okay. A little dip. Oop, just a little bit of water on there. Not a whole lot. Okay. And so now, just like before, I'll take and I'll put those pieces together. So we've got just a little bit of a wiggle. See that? I don't even hardly have to push it because those parts are they're coming together. They're mushing together. They're gelling. Okay, I am applying a little bit of pressure, but it's not too bad. Okay, and then just like before, what I'll do. And by the way, if you needed to support this, you could use a bag like here, for instance. Right? Or even maybe a few bags. There. And that was a softer surface now. Okay. Anyways, a little bit of paint on that one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to score just like before. Get in there and really, really dig around. Really mess that up. If you had to add more clay in there, you could do that, by adding just a little ribbon of clay, a little coil there. That'd be all right. And then once you do that, you can just take and put those together. And once again, that is going to make a real solid connection right there, just essentially making it one piece. Okay, so now, of course, I would do that all the way around. So now I've got that attached all the way around. And so even if you're putting little things on, you still want to make them hollow. So these, you might think that those are relatively small, right? These little legs right here, legs or arms. But I would still do the same thing. So let's say, for instance, I was just putting a couple little things here. First off, I'd want to sort of shape them, mold them to the shape that I wanted. Second, I might go ahead and just put them where they might want to go. And once again, I'm going to draw out where they're going to be at. Okay, I would mark where I'm going to make the hole. And then I would cut those out. And just like before, I'm going to go ahead and just really score those up well. Score these guys up well. And then attach them. Right, just like so, a little wiggle and a push. A little bit of a wiggle and a push right here on this one. So everything, all the same thing. And, those might be attached well, but, I just don't like taking the chance because I don't like building things and then having them fall off. So same as before, I'm just going to go ahead, since it's so easy to do, and I'm going to score all the way around, really messing it up. Now, of course, sometimes you're doing very delicate work and you can't do this. That's okay. But on something that's big and structural and easy to get to, like this, why not? Why not just take a few minutes and make sure that it's really secure. There you go. All right. So easy to do. And then those are on. Boy, those are not coming off, are they? I'd have to rip it apart to get that one out. All right, so that's the basics. That's how you might go about just constructing. And so I'll give you some of the finer points on how I made my various examples, right? Like my little kitty cat or the bear, right? Or the pig for that matter, in a few still images and just pointing a few things out. And that's it. Hopefully you have fun with this project and do a really nice job. Instead of running you through separate tutorials for each one of the examples that I've given for this project, I thought I would just show a few still images of some key moments in the construction that might help you out and give you some ideas. Okay, so the first one we're looking at here is just the tail being attached to the cat, and all you're seeing is that I put the tail on here so I could draw a line around it. And so the next thing that we see is that I've cut holes in the back there because the tail is hollow, and you can see how the tail is actually curved around and hollow like that. Okay, and there's multiple holes so that the air can flow out of there. Good, no problem. All right, so next we just see how we've gone ahead and scored it a little bit so that it can be attached. And finally, what it looks like when it is attached. Next thing is the ears. Now the ears are solid, but just once again showing that how they are attached. So here we see the beginnings of the face. The face was molded a little bit when I first made it. So when it was still in the bowl stage, I pushed in the eyes, for instance, and pushed out the nose a little bit and gave it its rough shape. But that wasn't going to be good enough. Even though it was close, I wanted to add a few details to it and so make the jaw a little bit bigger, for instance. Here you'll see that I've added material even though it's not hollow. It's just giving it a little bit more. And once it's been smoothed off, you can see that it's actually made the face a lot better. You know, it was looking fine before, but not quite good enough. Same thing with the chin. The chin was a little bit weak, so I added just a little bit of material there once again. And there, now we've got the finished cat face. And it looks good. It looks better than the first one right here. All right, so now I had to add the eyes. And once again, those aren't hollow, but they are scored well as I put them on. And they made the eyes come out a little bit more, expressive. And the important thing is that when I put the eyes on, that I would push them in from the center first, working my way out. That's what you do whenever you're attaching sort of a large piece, so that you can push all the air out of the way. Okay, here now I'm starting to do the fur on them a little bit. So I've just taken and, people often ask me, how do I know, what things look like? Well, I've done a lot of observational drawing and looking deeply at things and studying, for instance, well, how does the pattern of fur go on a cat, let's say, and actually on most animals. And so I could saw it radiating away from the eyes anyways and down the back and etc. So here it is all rough. But I wasn't going to leave it rough like that. What I wanted to do was I just took a brush, and this one happened to be a toothbrush because actually I was at home when I was doing this, and I wanted to have just a regular old paintbrush that I'd find in the classroom, but I didn't happen to have one at the house. Either way it would work, and the fact that the toothbrush was kind of stiff helped even more. And so I've just taken a little bit of water and taken the brush and brushed that down and made it a little bit smoother. So now the bear I've gone through, and I can show you some various stages of its construction. Many things are just like we saw before. Here's taking and making 4 identical mounts because basically the paws and the feet were going to be all the same size. So 4 identical pieces of clay made into 4 balls, made into 4 identical shapes, just like we were making when we did the 4 identical pieces before. And there we have a couple of them hollowed out and the holes cut in it. And then same thing was done for the arms, and before you know it, I had that bear shape. Now even the mouth was going to be hollow, so there it is, being once again drawing the outline of it and then scoring and getting ready to attach. The eyes were just solid, so I just rolled out 2 little pieces and put them on. Once again, scoring. And scoring is just so important. So then it came time to put the coin slots and the holes in the bottoms for the stopper. So I used the stopper itself as a guide for the coin stop. And you can see the clay was a little bit dry, so I didn't want to crack it up when I was putting the slot in, and I wanted it to be nice and neat. So what I did is I just cut it in sections using one of the carving tools. I can just section it out, and then when I cut it away, I cut it away little by little. When making the hole for the bottom, I used the stopper itself as a guide, knowing that as the clay is fired, it's going to shrink even more, because this was already pretty dry, but it will shrink more once it's in the kiln. It's easier to take away material. It's going to be pretty much impossible to put material back, so you don't want to make the hole too big, but you also don't want to make it too small, because you can take the material away, you can sand away a little bit, but it's not easy to do. And to that end, you can also see that I've tapered the hole so that when the stopper goes in, not only is it going to fit better, but when I make those slight adjustments to it after it comes out of the kiln, it'll have a thinner area and be easier to deal with. Okay, well, that's the project in a nutshell, and I hope that you do really good with it.